Greetings, my name is Rabbi Avrohom Rapoport from Atlantic City, New Jersey. On social media, I'm known as Rabbi Raps, and it's my pleasure to address this audience on the topic of Netilat Yadayim. So, Chanukah is all about the oil. We eat the latkes, the donuts, we try to light menorahs with oil to remind us of the miracle of the oil that lasted instead of 1 day for 8 days. You know the story. But here's the question. You know, in the temple, they lit a menorah with oil that was shemen zayis zach. It was pure olive oil. It was the first drop of oil, and the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, was there to supervise, to make sure it was kosher, and he sealed the top of it. And that was the only oil used for the holy menorah. You couldn't just go to ShopRite or any store and buy oil. It wouldn't work. There was an exception, however. You could just use any oil, not sealed by the high priest, if the majority of the Jewish people were impure. And it just happened to be, during the story of Chanukah, majority of the Jewish people were ritually impure. They went to war, they went to battle, there were corpses everywhere, and you became ritually impure. So technically, it was not a problem to light the menorah with just any oil. So why did they, delay and hesitate in lighting the menorah? There was oil around, there just wasn't sure olive oil that was certified by the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. In fact, the Yavanim, the Greeks, didn't destroy the oil. All they did was broke the seals. They went and opened up all the seals, and they were like, it's good oil, don't ruin no good oil. So why did the Chashmonaim hesitate and look for that little cruse? Finally, they found it. They could have lit the menorah, and they would have been okay. Everyone was impure at that time. They would have been covered their bases. Halachically, they were fine. So to understand this, we have to understand our enemy a little more. What problem did the Greeks have with the Jewish people, and what was the clash? What was the war about? Our sages tell us that technically the Greeks liked the Jewish people. They thought Jewish people were very smart. They loved the Torah. They loved philosophy. They had many philosophies. They had no problem with Torah. They loved a lot of the traditions, the food, the culture, the music. They loved the Jewish people. In fact, they wanted Jewish people around. They had a problem with one aspect of Judaism: Kedusha, Tahara, holiness, purity, spirituality. You see, Jewish people, we believe, that there are things that we do because we understand, and then there's parts of Judaism that are above our understanding. We understand Hashem is greater than us, so we'll actually do mitzvahs that we don't understand because we believe this is the right thing for us to do. We have faith and respect for Hashem and the Torah and Yiddishkeit. But the Greeks had a problem with that. You see, the Greeks were all about the human experience. They were into beautiful things, fine things, but only things that the human being could accomplish. To the Greeks, the greatest achievements were human achievements. And they believed in gods. They have no problem with gods, but their gods were like in another world. And to them, if they did something, they had to understand it. And there was no such thing about something that they couldn't see with their eyes having any importance. For example, the concept of oil being holy. To them, oil is oil. What do you mean, holy oil? If I look at this oil and I look at that oil, it smells the same, it tastes the same. Oil's oil. But Yiddishkeit says, no, there's something called purity and holiness. Something you can't smell, see, or touch. Something we have faith in, something greater. A way that God interacts with the physical world. And the Greek says, no, this is not for us. And that was the clash between the Greeks and the Jews. So what did they do? They just broke the seals of all the oil. So they told the Jewish people, light your candles. We love candles. Candles are warm, they're romantic, they glow, they're nice. But don't believe in this spiritual, supernatural stuff. The Greeks were all about the human existence, the human achievements. They were into their physique, they were into the philosophy, they were into sciences, they were into arts, but only human accomplishments, not things greater than the human being that we don't understand. They didn't like that. And that's what the war was about. You could have been culturally Jewish under the Greek rulership and you would have been fine. It was the belief in elikus, in spirituality, in kedusha. That's what they had an issue with. And that's what the Maccabees were fighting for that freedom. And so, my friends, the Chashmonaim came back to the Beis HaMikdash, and they could have just lit any oil, and halakhically they would have been fine because they were ritually impure. But they couldn't do it because the whole point of the war was fighting for the ability to serve Hashem in the belief of Kedusha and Tahara and purity. And if they just light any oil, it's like against the whole purpose of the war. So they didn't light anything until they turned over every corner of the Beis Hamikdash to find the Shemen Zayach Zach, and they find it and they light it, and Hashem makes it last, not for one day, but for 8 days. Hashem says, you were right. You did the right thing. It's Hashem winking, so to say, at the Jewish people, saying, yes, you got it. This is important. And so, perhaps this is the reason why in the Gemara, when it asks the question, my Chanukah, what is Chanukah? It doesn't even talk about the war. Yeah, the war is amazing. It just tells us the story of the oil. That's what Chanukah is about. Fighting for the belief in holiness and Kedusha. My friends, we have a mitzvah today, Netilat Yadayim, that encourages us to live our life in a way of maintaining a higher level of purity, of tahara in our lives. Every morning we wash our hands ritually. Before we eat bread, we wash our hands ritually. The idea that there are things in our life that we can't necessarily see, but there is holiness and the opposite of holiness. So isn't it apropos on this holiday of Chanukah, when we talk about the purity of the oil and the purity of the Jewish people, to think about the way we do these mitzvahs, like up to Netilas Yadayim? Can we do it better? Can we be more careful? It's a holiday celebrating holiness within Yiddishkeit. Wishing you a happy and a healthy, a luminous Chanukah, and God should bless each and every one of us with everything we need and everything we want. And may we merit the coming of Mashiach, b'mehera v'yameinu. Happy Chanukah.